My name is Riddhi Motla, and I'm currently a senior at Northview High School in Georgia. And the title of my research paper is Biomarkers as Indicators for Early Diagnosis of Alzheimer's Disease. And specifically in this paper, I explore the possibility of predicting Alzheimer's disease early on by utilizing biomarkers like cerebrospinal fluid and proteins in the blood plasma like p-tau and beta amyloid proteins. So what is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, and it affects millions of people worldwide and is the most common form of dementia. The main cause of Alzheimer's disease is mainly unknown. However, there are risk factors like age, environmental factors, and genetics. Genetics happens to be only in 1% of cases, though. Although there are many studies on Alzheimer's itself, little is known about how to detect it early on. Recent studies have shown that there is a correlation between cerebrospinal fluid and blood plasma levels relating to the brain. Studying biomarkers for early detection of Alzheimer's is very important because it'll enable medical providers to recognize symptoms between the patients early on and can even help initiate treatment early on so that we can create better treatments and have better medical facilities. So these are the 3 articles that were most important in my research. The first one taught me a lot about the application of biomarkers. So like what are biomarkers itself? They're basically measures of different proteins and substances in the body that help us like indicate diseases and can be very predictive. And regarding the second article, it specifically talked about cerebrospinal fluid, and cerebrospinal fluid is very close in proximity with the brain. So it does end up absorbing some of the proteins like close to the brain, so it can act as like a nutrient channel. So it can tell us a lot about any problems that might be going on in the brain. And talking about beta amyloid therapy, patients with Alzheimer's disease tend to have beta amyloid plaques that form in the brain, known as amyloid sinks. And this is believed to be the main cause of a decrease of cerebrospinal fluid in patients with Alzheimer's. So my research was mainly a literature review, and for qualitative analysis, I've analyzed various articles and studies to determine the correlation between these specific markers and Alzheimer's. And for data collection, I looked at studies that measured the amount of proteins in patients with Alzheimer's disease and without. So that served as the quantitative analysis. So looking at the qualitative analysis, I realized that there was a major difference in protein levels between people with and without Alzheimer's. So that basically does mean that there is a strong correlation. So I was able to conclude that the p-tau biomarkers and cerebrospinal were very effective and good indicators of Alzheimer's. So through my research, I was able to answer my 2 main questions of how Alzheimer's is related to cerebrospinal fluid and blood plasma, and how using biomarkers for early detection can be very beneficial. Overall, using biomarkers to diagnose Alzheimer's early on is very beneficial because just being able to know the symptoms ahead of time can help beneficially provide for the family and create a better quality of life for the patients and their caretakers. The main limitation of this topic of this research was the fact that biomarkers can't 100% guarantee Alzheimer's just because there does need to be more studies on it. So as for now, it's mainly only for prediction purposes. So thank you for listening to my presentation. Now I'd like to take a moment to talk about my research experience with gifted gabber. I'd like to thank Dr. Kate, specifically because she helped a lot with the lectures and expanded my knowledge so much. And during our one-on-one sessions, she was able to question me a lot so that I can think of new ideas of what to write for my research paper and inspire me of even more ideas. And Professor Virgil was able to help me format, especially with the citing, because that was a major issue. So that helped a lot. And lastly, I'd like to thank Gifted Gabber and Coach Joe for providing so much support during the writing of this paper and just being there and helping me get this experience overall. Thank you.
Can you hear me? You did a great job. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I thought you did an excellent job, and I've read for a lot of your stuff too. I was reading about, don't ask why, I have no idea, about Alzheimer's yesterday. And were you aware of, or have you come across in your research that the genetic, you said 1%, so it could be higher. Usually things are underreported, but have you read anything about early onset usually having a genetic component, while later onset is a little bit different than that?
So most of the onset cases, I said the 1%, most of that 1% is due to genetics. From what I've read, the later onset one don't tend to be due to genetics. They mostly are mostly age and then environmental factors like exposure to a lot of metals like aluminum and lead. So
right. Yeah. Yes. Alzheimer's at any age is not good, but for people who have Alzheimer's early, and that genetic component, that's really important. So finding good treatments is extremely important, and we need people to do that kind of stuff for us. So anyway, you did a wonderful job. Thank you so very much.
Apologies, I had to step away. Great job, Riddhi. Proud of you.